Hello there, everybody. My name is Ashley Hunt. I'm the Senior Project Management Instructor here at StormWind Studios. And this week, I'm teaching the Project Management Institute's Agile Certified Practitioner Exam Prep class. And it's interesting because I get a lot of folks that come into my class that either have Agile experience or they just want to learn more about it. It's seemingly this new way of managing projects. So I get a lot of predictive project managers saying, wow, that sounds cool. What all's involved in that? And I was like, seemingly new because Agile's been around since like the early 1990s, 1995 and forward, when organizations were trying to figure out how to automate their systems, either in manufacturing or developing software, even if it was just payroll software internally that needed to be developed. Think about that. Think about the technology in 1995 and how far we've actually come. So I get some people in my class that are like, I just want to learn about some of these best practices, and others that are like, well, I do Agile types of projects and I want to take the exam. What can I expect on the exam? So I thought I'd just go through a little bit of an overview about what to expect on the PMI Agile Certified Practitioner exam. And like I said, some people just come to class because they want to learn more about it. And as you'll see when we go through this, that we cover quite a bit of best practices, and there's quite a bit of those best practices that are found on the PMI-ACP exam, because PMI wanted to really take a look at a variety of different frameworks, best practices, and say, look, there's not a one-size-fits-all. That we need some agnostic best practices that really help us work with what we have as far as our unique projects are concerned. And right now, tailoring is one of the biggest skills that you can have. This project needs to be run in an agile fashion. This project needs to be run in a predictive fashion. This project needs a hybrid. And so that's what we go through in this class. As far as taking the exam is concerned, though, or even just implementing Agile in your organization, understanding the mindset is going to be one of the most important things that you can do, because it's very different from predictive. And this exam is situationally based, and they're testing your ability to be agile. Not to do agile, but to be agile. And how do we make decisions? And how do we pivot if there's a change? And how do we get in the frame of mind of each one of the testable domains? And I'll show you what goes into all of those domains. But as we go through this, just kind of click off some of the checklists of, do I do that already? Or is that something that I might be interested in doing? It's tough to find because the exam is based on about 17 books. And it's tough to really read through 17 books and get a clear idea as to the principles and mindset and value-driven delivery and stakeholder engagement and problem detection and resolution. So I wrote a book for Wiley Sybex. It's an exam prep book for this particular exam for the PMI-ACP Agile Certified Practitioner exam, because I couldn't find information all in one place that gave me what I needed to study to take and pass this exam. And there's several really great books out there, absolutely, but I needed a way to try and compartmentalize all of this and say, what do I need to know? So the exam is 120 questions. 20 of those questions are what they call pre-test, which is actually not the case. They're seeded into the rest of the exam. You won't know which ones count toward your score and which ones don't. But you can see from the breakdown of the approximate amount of questions, value-driven delivery is number one. And agile principles and mindset, stakeholder engagement, team performance. Those are the big aspects of agile projects as well. So the exam is basically going to ask you to have a high school diploma, associate's degree, or global equivalent at the minimum. You also need to have 2,000 hours of general project management experience. If you have your PMP, that covers it. You don't need to redo that. 1,500 hours working on Agile project teams or with Agile methodologies. And that could just be you're working on a hybrid. You do daily stand-up meetings, maybe you use a Kanban board, and things like those all count. You don't have to be doing full-blown Scrum or full-blown extreme programming or anything like that. You also need 21 contact hours of training through a training industry type of person like myself at StormWind Studios or others, and then answer the questions. 120 multiple choice questions, and then you also have to maintain your certification with 30 professional development units every 3 years. If you also have your PMP, there's some overlap between agile and predictive types of projects where PDUs count in both categories. So you don't necessarily need 90, you just need 60, but 30 of those have to be relevant to agile. All right, so we're going to go through some of the tools or techniques here just at a high level, but basically if you go out to PMI's website, and I'll give you the link at the end of this, you can go through and check out the exam content outline and some of the other things. But tools and techniques that they test on are analysis and design of agile types of projects, estimation, communication, interpersonal skills, how you track your metrics, which might be very different from a predictive project, planning, monitoring, and adapting, quality, risk management, value-based prioritization, making sure that the most important features and functions end up in the final result no matter what. And how we do that in agile analysis and design is by creating things like product roadmaps. Maybe you're familiar with using a product backlog or user stories, which are basically identifying and describing the increment in such a way so that people know what they're building. As an end user, etc., I need or want XYZ so that I can do or so that I get. Maybe use story maps. Maybe you use wireframes, which is basically drawing out a website. Maybe use chartering, personas, workshops, collaboration games like planning poker. If any of these are things that you've done before, you want to learn more about, that's something that gets covered in the class and on the exam. Communication, information radiators, team space tooling. How do you set up your team space so that it's the most effective? Osmotic communication for co-located and or distributed teams. Learning through osmosis by overhearing. You could sit in a Zoom meeting and not say a word and absorb a lot of the information that's necessary. And the same thing happens as we learn through Agile. So a lot of this two-way brainstorming, feedback, practicing active listening, social media-based communications, all very important for any type of project. So our interpersonal skills, emotional intelligence, big focus on collaboration, adaptive leadership, so we adapt what we're doing and how we're doing it. Also practicing servant leadership, so we lead from behind our team and we carry the food and water, support our team, negotiation, conflict resolution. Metrics and things that they go through, things like velocity, cycle time, lead time. How do we improve our cycle time by limiting the steps that we take and providing value faster? If we can speed up the time that value ends up in the customer's hands or the organization's hands, we're improving not only our output, but the way that we're doing things. Maybe earned value. Those of you who've taken a PMP class or a CAPM or Project Plus class are like, oh, earned value. It's not heavily tested on, but there are some stakeholders that are like, look, I still need the same reports that I needed from that predictive project. Defect rates, getting your approved iterations, making sure that the whatever you produce increment is accepted. And then work in progress. How much work do we actually have in progress now? Is it too much that we're not getting anything done? Or not enough that we're not producing something usable at the end? Planning, monitoring, and adapting. You can see daily stand-up meetings, burn down, burn up charts, WIP limits, work in progress limits, time boxing, using a Kanban board or a task board, doing reviews, refining the backlog and making sure that there's a lot of interactive communication so everybody's all on the same page with what you're working on. And there's always process improvements. We're always constantly trying to do a better job. Kaizen is a combination of two Japanese words. Kai and Zen means continuous improvement. The 5 whys, that's a brainstorming technique to get to the root cause. It was created at Toyota. If you ask why 5 times, you'll get to the bottom of things. Retrospectives, kind of like a lessons learned meeting, except it happens at the end of each iteration. And introspectives, looking inward to find out, hey, what can we do differently, sometimes preemptively, prior to a sprint or iteration beginning? Tailoring and hybrid models, there are tons of them out there right now. I mean, you've got things like Scrum, Bon, large scale Scrum, you've got all sorts of things. Disciplined Agile Delivery, which the Project Management Institute just acquired, as well as Flex. It's an agnostic way and basically looks at it like one size doesn't fit all. You got different projects, you need to be able to adapt and adjust. So there's a lot of things out there now that are more flexible for different organizations and different types of projects. Value stream mapping, let's look at our process and get rid of the non-value adds, and then now we have a new process. Fishbone diagrams to find root causes. Pre-mortems, rule setting, and failure analysis. How could we fail going forward What a freeing conversation. Let's fail faster and get there sooner. And so that we can get over it, get through it, learn it, and then move on and do it the right way the next time. Product quality, frequent verification, validation. What is our definition of done? How do we know when this increment is done? How do we know when the final product, service, or result is done? Continuous integration, making sure that if you are working in software, that everything's functioning together. Type, spell check, print works together. You can type it, then spell check it, and then print it out. You don't type it, save, close, come back in, spell check, save, close, come back in, and print it. Non-integrated software. So we want to make sure that it's quality, whatever we're doing. Testing, exploratory usability testing, all sorts of things to ensure that our product, service, result is quality, because guess what? Agile is not just for software development anymore. Risk management, any project, we need to make sure that we are managing risk. Sometimes we do things with like a risk-based spike, which means we don't know how to deal with it, so we need to step aside from actually doing the work and create a solution. Architectural spikes, same thing. We don't really know how to execute something to get it to do what we want it to do, so we need to step aside from actually doing work in progress and figure out how to make that happen. Value-based prioritization, ROI is always important, and MOSCO, which is must, should, could, and won't, as far as prioritization for features. Can-you analysis, what is an exciter? What is a satisfier? What is a dissatisfier? When we're putting together whatever the product, service, or result features are, we want to make sure that they reach the best audience. Requirements review, customer value prioritization, compliance. I know a lot of you probably deal with compliance on a regular basis. So that's just a cross-section of everything that is on this exam and in any exam prep class for the Agile Certified Practitioner. But if you're interested in learning more about the exam and trying to figure out, is this the right thing for me? Maybe I just want to come in and learn some best practices. The more the merrier. You do not have to have letters after your name for this to be valuable to you. So if you go out to www.pmi.org, you can click on the certification dropdown, choose ACP, and read all about it. You'll see the exam content outline, how to apply, and all sorts of other really great information. So I hope that helped as an overview, got you a little bit excited about getting your PMI-ACP or just learning some new best practices.